what is a churt? Churt is just short for chicken yurt. Central to our nomad chicken method, in this lesson we'll use the word churt for shorthand, but churt and chicken yurt refer to the same unique style of chicken tractor. It keeps these chickens on the move while being supremely protected, which has been extensively tested. Durable, lightweight, easy to build with common materials, and simple to fix. Lasts a lifetime as metal does. For the chickens, the churt allows for direct access to pasture below, protection from the elements above, and from both land and aerial predators. During our growing season, we are usually battling the wind, the sun, the heat, and the monsoon rains. The churt was designed for handling the extremes of all of these natural occurrences here in New Mexico. So against the wind, the churt is made of metal, and its open-sided design allows for strong winds to pass through it without taking it away like a kite. We regularly get 70-mile-per-hour gusts here, and we've never had a churt take flight. Against the sun, the vinyl on the top should be white or almost completely white so that it deflects the heat of the sun. The underside is covered with black plastic sheeting to protect the chickens and their sensitivity to light during the peak of the day. The chickens can have access to morning sunshine and evening sunset when the angle isn't directly overhead. All designed to keep the chickens from just cooking away in the high altitude sun. Remember, we are at 7,000 feet above sea level, with sunshine about 300 days of the year. Sun protection is very important for us. Against the heat. Since meat birds, especially the Cornish cross, are sensitive when it comes to the thermal regulation, protection from the sun is key. Also, having the full open wall design allows for the maximum amount of ventilation possible. Your chickens cannot bake in a churt, as we've seen with other designs, especially those using greenhouse sheeting for a roof. These people wonder why their chickens keep dying. They are basically being baked alive. Against the heavy monsoon rains. The strong vinyl roof and the shape of the chicken yurt skeleton allow for rain to come off around the sides of the churt rather than pooling on top or dumping onto the chickens. Even once out of the brooder, chickens do not like to be wet, and it is a stress mentally and physically that can lead to unnecessary death. The churt was not designed for being used in the winter or in the snow. Though in the extreme climate where we live, we have had a random snowstorm just days after putting the chickens out to pasture. If snow happens unexpectedly, we have placed a few bales of hay around one half of the churt to shield from the direction of the wind and snow. We do not raise or try to raise chickens in the snow, so therefore our churts are not designed for snow or winter conditions. Since it's basically impossible to do pastured poultry in the snow, since the pasture is covered in snow, we do not recommend attempting to. This isn't a year-round gig, unless you live in the south or somewhere with such mild winters as the grass continues to grow. For most of North America, you can safely use your churt while the grass grows, generally from May through October or April through September, give or take depending on your exact location. Raising pasture poultry is a seasonal activity in most places, and while the American tendency is to expect everything to work all the time, this is not the case in raising food and caring for more sensitive breeds like the Cornish cross, who again were bred to be raised unnaturally, fully indoors in a totally climate-controlled environment. If you are wanting to raise meat birds in the winter, generally you will not be raising pastured poultry. The superior aspect of our chicken yurt is that one person can move it by themselves without needing to use a whole team of people or a full-on diesel tractor to move it. This is perfect for a human-powered chicken tractor system that is safe and simple. Using your body as a hinge allows for the scooting or sweeping motion with each step backward that even the most not super strong adult or older teen can move themselves. I've even moved it by myself while pregnant. That hinge movement allows one to use their own body weight against the weight of the churt dragging along the pasture. Another reason not to use a classic wooden chicken tractor, or any other style for that matter, is the overuse of materials involved in building one. Half of the time we see people using these chicken tractors, it's like they had to add all this bracing inside the thing to hold up the weight of the roof with all of its heavy material on top. And then it's all wooden, so it's just destined to get out of whack and warped after every move. The wood is more prone to rot and warp with the weather. So you build one for a few years, and then you have to build another? or spend a bunch of time trying to reinforce this wonky wooden one and spend money on even more unnecessary materials? Yes, our chert design does require using metal and welding. Taking the time to build it right and with strong materials allows you to build it only once and let it produce for you year after year. To drive the point home about this lasting quality of our design, here is what 8 seasons of consecutive use under the harsh, high-altitude New Mexico sun and weather looks like. This spring, we will replace the vinyl roof, but the metal frame and chicken wire are still in great condition. We'll take replacing the roof every 8 years over a wooden chicken tractor and its constant repairs any day. And maybe where you are, the sun isn't as destructive, and in that case, you'll likely get more than 8 years per roof. Our chert is built to be 8 foot by 8 foot size. The reason for this size is that it's very simple to maneuver for one person and how many chickens we like to raise at one time. About 25 chickens fit comfortably in one chicken yurt, meaning if you want to raise 50 chickens a year so that you'll have about one whole bird per week through the year to eat, you'll have to either build 2 cherts or do 2 separate batches of 25 birds. The goal for me has always been to have at least 52 whole birds in the freezer, so I know I have that 1 bird per week for feeding our family. If this is your goal for this year, I would recommend building 1 chicken yurt and then planning to raise 2 batches based on the planning we outlined in the previous sourcing chicks lesson. The chert is designed to be simple to build with easy to source and inexpensive materials, because pretty much anywhere in the world you can find rebar and chicken wire. We've used hog rings, rebar ties, or simply just baling wire to attach the chicken wire to the rebar frame. Choose what you are most comfortable with using. For the top, we've used old vinyl billboards or vinyl sign material if you can't or don't want to buy new white vinyl. You can even use black contractor trash bags for the underside when access to black plastic rolls aren't easily found in your location. We are always recommending, through this course, to use what you have or what you can find cheap or free in your area. Most of the objects and materials needed for raising chickens can be found secondhand or from something repurposed. Be as thrifty as your heart desires. Post on your local farm and garden forums or Facebook pages or Craigslist and see what people might have just laying around that you can use. Though we do not recommend using tarp material for the roof of the chert. It has to be the white vinyl material for the sun, wind, and rain protection, which is essential to this design. As I mentioned in the previous slide, these are all the different tools and materials you will need to build your very own chicken yurt. As far as the required tools, I spent some time getting prices. These prices are 2025 prices, and it's fairly inexpensive to have these tools. And again, these tools are yours after this. You know, you can keep them forever. I feel like the price is not very high. Down here you can see the different choices for attaching the chicken wire to the rebar frame. So first, here on the left on the bottom is these hog rings. If you haven't heard of those before, that's what they look like. They're C-shaped metal pieces, and then you use they're kind of like pliers, to squeeze the hog ring around the metal. Another choice is these rebar ties in the center here on the bottom. Last time we built our third chicken yurt we used rebar ties. And what you do is you just wrap them around. They have the little loop on the end of the wire. And this little hook tool spins around. So you hook both of the hooks after it's through, and you twist it around. And they work really, really well. It saved Cameron a lot of time to use that tool. I recommend the rebar ties. But on every farm or every homestead, there's baling wire. Everybody has baling wire. So that is a super accessible item. You can cut it into small sections, kind of make it similar to these rebar ties, and just twist it with pliers. Below this video, you'll find a simple stick welding 101 type YouTube video. I highly recommend you watch it if you've never used a stick welder before and you are planning to learn this great to have skill. Stick welding is the most simple and easiest of all welding. We are confident if you are even slightly handy, you will be able to learn to stick weld and build this chert successfully. You'll also find the link to the currently $150 welder from Harbor Freight I mentioned before. Don't forget to also grab welding helmet and gloves. Though in my experience, welders are somewhat of a shared tool amongst groups of friends or within families. Someone's dad has a stick welder in his garage. I'm sure you could use it. So ask around in your circles, Because if this is the only thing you ever plan to weld, it may not be needed for you to own the welder. Simply borrow it or build it in your dad's workshop, or outsource the welding part of the project to your dad, or uncle, or buddy in exchange for some delicious meat birds at the end of the season. We barter with chicken all the time. It's such a superior currency, which you'll soon find out. And finally, if you've exhausted all your options for finding a welder, you can always hire an actual welder person to weld the rebar frame for you. And then you can wrap it with the chicken wire and you can put the roof on. Finally, below you'll find the link to download our Chicken Yurt instructions and blueprints. Cameron extensively explains every step-by-step of the project with detailed plans down to a 1/16 of an inch. But this level of accuracy is definitely not required. Another great feature of the chert is that the design is very forgiving. And even if it's not perfect, it will still result in a chert that can last for many years. The design takes into consideration first-time builders and can be a great learning experience if you are the DIY type. Go ahead now and print it all out so that you can start to understand the steps involved in preparation for making your very own chert. And if you have any questions after downloading and taking a good look at the Chicken Yurt plans, please do not hesitate to contact us via the student Facebook group, where we can explain further any aspects of the plans as needed, or provide photos or more information. I don't foresee that being needed. We are always available for your questions through this whole course, which is, in essence, a skill set building course.